Hi there, and welcome to How to Play the Saxophone, Lesson 2, with myself, Thomas Lumley. Now then, today we're going to look at sound production, and we're going to look at basic how you make sound on the instrument, how to control that sound, and then a couple of exercises to really develop your sound across all the registers and across the whole instrument. In the last lesson, if you remember, we looked at posture, we looked at setup firstly, and we're going to talk about a bit about setup today because there is an element of setup in the sound production. There's a few things you can adjust up here. We're also going to look at posture, we're going to look at breathing, and we're going to look at embouchure as well today. So, let's firstly start with setup again. We're going to look a little bit more in depth about this part of the instrument. So, as I mentioned last time, it's in 3 parts. Obviously, you have the mouthpiece, ligature and the reed. Now, as I mentioned very briefly in the last lesson, the way this works is that the reed vibrates against this and your bottom lip here. So, without the ligature here, I'm just going to hold the reed on with my hand. And you want to place it, let me show you there. If you can see there. So that it is covering that top part of the mouthpiece. Some shape of the mouthpiece vary, but if you can see that there. And it should fit flatly there. And it should sound a bit trill if you try to make sound. So you get this kind of thing. Now then, the ligature basically does what my hand is doing there. So that fits over there. Careful not to really change the shape position of your reed. Now if you find you're having trouble with the reed is a bit too hard, you can adjust. There is a bit of adjustment available here. You can move it downwards to give slightly bit more space, although that'll give you a slightly breathier tone. What you can then do also, if your reed is a bit soft as well, if you've been playing on it and it's gone maybe slightly too overplayed, you can push it up a tiny amount. I'm talking millimeters here, like a mil that way and a mil that way. And then you can get a slightly harder tone. And eventually the reed will give up. So, when it comes to choosing these parts as well, I always urge students to say, to begin with, you want a mouthpiece with a fairly small lay. Now the lay is the distance between the reed here and the mouthpiece here, this space here. And that's sort of the space in which the reed vibrates against. So it vibrates on your bottom lip here and the top of their mouthpiece there. That's called the lay. I'd urge students to use a relatively small lay, they're 4 or 5, something like that. And not a really soft reed. People go for really soft reeds, but often that hinders them because the reed itself doesn't take much to vibrate it, and some people want to blow quite hard at the beginning of when they start playing the saxophone. So if you go for, I mean, if you're a Rico user, I'm a Rico reed user, I use Rico Jazz Select. Not fishing for an endorsement there, don't worry. But if you go for a Rico reed, that's the standard sort of thing. I'd say start at 2.5, that sort of strength, with a mouthpiece with a smaller lay. I mean, this is a huge topic, and you can find forums online, you can find all kinds of information about this, and it's at the end of the day, it's a very personal journey you've got to go through. You've got to find the right setup for you that feels comfortable. It's about feel, really. It's not even about sound so much, because the sound comes from yourself. I mean, there is an element about sound, but it's about feel, I find. I mean, this is also linked to sound. If you want a sort of high pitch, sharper tone, go for a metal mouthpiece. I used to play Lawton. This is a Le Bay Belgian ebony, made of wooden mouthpiece. You know, if you want a kind of pop sound, then I'd say use a metal mouthpiece, really. But you can also get a pop sound on something like this. It's down to your ability. But it's about feel, it's about comfort. And if it feels comfortable in your mouth when you're playing, then that's what matters. Okay, some people come to me, well, I've got nothing to compare that against. I've never played saxophone before. I've got no idea of what feels comfortable, what doesn't. And yeah, but I mean, what can you do about that? You have to perhaps go to a shop, try out several different things, and feel which one is the most comfortable. Take your saxophone, take your mouthpiece that came with the saxophone that you're probably practicing with, and then compare against it. But I urge you, if you're going to change something here, only change one at a time. So if you're going to change your strength of reed, keep the mouthpiece, keep the ligature, keep the saxophone the same. If you're going to change the mouthpiece, keep the reed, keep the ligature the same. Keep the saxophone the same. If you're going to change the saxophone, keep everything up here the same. So you've got some relativity in your own world. So that's the start of that. Now, one exercise I give to students is, if you take the neck off the instrument like this, you can also get a sound here. So, we'll use this as our sort of example. What you want to do is place your top front teeth here. Okay, it looks a bit silly, but place your top teeth there, and your bottom lip over your bottom teeth, and then on the reed, like that. So you get this kind of sound. And you can practice that until your neighbours come knocking. But of course, we want to do more than that. We want to make sound on the instrument itself. So, remembering what we talked about in the last lesson about posture, about feel, about being relaxed when you play, about breathing. Feet shoulder width apart, saxophone straight, you're looking straight down the instrument like this. I'm going to take an F in the low register, which is all three keys here and this one here. I find it's kind of a nice balanced note to start with. You can start with any note, but I usually go somewhere like that. If you play without any fingers on, it's a C sharp. But I'm going to use this F here just as an example. So, moving everything we talked about, breathing from low down, straight through the instrument, imagining projecting down into the instrument that way. Something like this. The embouchure I'm using is a sort of standard embouchure. There is also two other types of embouchure. There's bottom lip out, which is sounds something like this. It's a little bit fruity, it's louder. brasher perhaps. And then you've also got the double, which is your top lips actually go underneath your top teeth and fit on the mouth here. Which is quite a softer sound. It's the complete opposite of the lip out. Then, you know, if you feel like you need some adjustment, feel free to adjust, try it up, down, just play around. I mean, that's the thing, there's no right or wrong, really. I mean, there's, you know, obviously you have to use the same things, but there's no definitively right or wrong way to do this. It's about feel. It's about finding what works for you. So, I'm going to take a few exercises now. The first one being the breathe for. So play for 4 beats, breathe for 2. And you can do this at any tempo. So breathe for 2. That's a very basic exercise. It's a good warm-up. Gets you sort of in the zone of knowing what's going on up here, what's going on up here. But it also gets you used to breathing as well. And you've got space to breathe, so there's a bit of restriction there. It's not just free-for-all. You know, you put a bit of restriction on yourself, and that way things get internalized. The next thing I'd urge you to do is look at what are called overtones. Now, each note is made up of several overtones. So these low ones are the ones to look at here. I would take the low B flat, the low B and the C. And what you want to do is aim for, firstly, the octave. So I'm using C here. I'm aiming for this note here. But on still fingering this low C. So my fingers don't change, I don't move like this, it just changes here and here. The next one is the G above that. This note here, but still fingering the low C. Then you can go to the next one, which is up. It's 2 octaves. So that's first basic exercise. Then you can play around with this. So you could go. So you're going middle C, low C, G, low C, high C, low C, G, C, middle C, low C. I'll do that again. And this is the final exercise I'll give you now, is volume and dynamics, because this really changes and really tests your embouchure here. So I'm going to start very quiet, going to very loud, and then back down again. And then the opposite. practice those on any note through the register. You can take it up the top somewhere. Take it down the bottom. It's harder lower down. I mean, and then you can extend it into altissimo if you want. Remember to set up the reed correctly. Go for a slightly harder reed and a smaller lay if you can. That's what I would recommend. And remember the 3 different types of embouchure. Remember to breathe. Remember to have the right posture. And yeah, I think that's about everything when it comes to looking at sound production. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel, and good luck with your long notes. Till next time, bye bye.